Most people think family will always stand beside you. Mine waited until my sister's wedding to publicly remind everyone that they believed I still depended on them. What happened next was something they never saw coming. In less than 5 minutes, one simple truth destroyed the story they had spent years creating, and every single guest in that room watched it happen. The moment my father stood in the middle of my sister Madison's wedding reception and raised his glass, I knew this speech was not just about celebrating the bride and groom. With nearly 200 guests watching, he smiled proudly and announced that he was still paying my college tuition because family always takes care of its own. A few people laughed politely while others looked at me with sympathy, as if I was the struggling younger sibling who still needed to be rescued. My mother smiled proudly, and Madison wore the kind of satisfied grin that said everything had gone exactly as planned. They believed they had embarrassed me in front of everyone. What none of them knew was that I had graduated 6 months earlier, built my own career, and had not depended on their money for a very long time. When my father handed me the microphone expecting a heartfelt thank you, he unknowingly handed me the opportunity to expose the truth. Growing up, I always knew there were different rules for Madison and me. She was the center of every celebration, every family conversation, and every dream my parents had. When she achieved something ordinary, they acted as if she had changed the world. When I worked tirelessly and earned scholarships or academic awards, I received a quick congratulations before the attention returned to her. She was given a new car when she turned 18, expensive gifts whenever she wanted them, and endless encouragement. I worked evenings and weekends, saved every dollar I could, and learned that if I wanted something, nobody was going to hand it to me. I never blamed Madison completely because she simply grew up believing she deserved that treatment. My parents were the ones who created that reality. When Madison got engaged, things became even worse. The wedding took over every family gathering, every holiday, and every conversation. If I was busy with work, nobody cared. If I missed a planning meeting, I was called selfish. They expected me to drop everything whenever Madison needed help choosing flowers, tasting food, or meeting another wedding vendor. My own career and responsibilities became invisible because, in their minds, the wedding was the only thing that mattered. 3 weeks before the ceremony, my father called with what he thought was his strongest weapon. He told me that if I refused to support my sister properly, he would stop paying my college tuition. I almost laughed, but I stayed quiet. What he did not know was that I had already graduated months earlier. Years of scholarships, internships, and relentless hard work allowed me to finish school early. Soon afterward, I accepted a full-time software job that paid far more than I ever imagined for someone my age. I was financially independent and building a future of my own. My parents had no idea because they had never cared enough to ask. Instead of correcting him, I simply agreed with everything. I attended the remaining wedding events, smiled politely, and acted exactly how they expected. They believed their threat had worked and that they were still in control. The truth was that I was simply waiting for the perfect moment to let reality speak for itself. That moment finally arrived during the reception. After dinner, my mother stood up and delivered an emotional speech about the sacrifices parents make for their children. Then my father took the microphone and praised Madison and her new husband as examples of responsibility and success. Slowly, he shifted the attention toward me. Without saying my name at first, he described a younger family member who still needed guidance and financial support. Then he proudly announced that they were still paying my college tuition before inviting me to say a few words. He expected gratitude. Instead, he handed me complete control of the room. I began by congratulating Madison and wishing the newlyweds a wonderful future together. Then I thanked my parents for everything they had done over the years. My father smiled confidently, believing his plan had worked perfectly. Then I calmly said that I was surprised everyone seemed so concerned about my tuition because I had graduated 6 months earlier. The room became completely silent. Every eye turned toward me while my parents' expressions changed. Instantly, I explained that scholarships and internships had covered most of my education and that I had accepted a full-time position shortly after graduation. I shared that I was already financially independent and earning more money than I ever expected this early in life. I was not trying to embarrass anyone. I was simply correcting a story that should never have been told in the first place. My parents looked completely shocked because they genuinely had no idea. They had spent so many years focusing on Madison that they never noticed I had quietly built a successful future on my own. Then something happened that made the entire room even quieter. One guest smiled and asked a simple question. If you graduated 6 months ago, did your parents attend your graduation? I looked toward my parents before answering honestly. No. They were busy touring wedding venues that weekend. Nobody laughed. Nobody needed another explanation. In that single moment, everyone understood exactly how my family had treated me for years. The atmosphere never recovered. My parents tried changing the subject, and Madison desperately attempted to pull the attention back to the celebration, but it was too late. Their carefully crafted image had fallen apart because the truth was stronger than any speech they had prepared. I handed the microphone back, congratulated the newlyweds one last time, and quietly walked out of the reception without looking back. Walking away from that wedding felt like leaving behind years of disappointment. For the first time in my life, I realized I did not need my parents' approval to measure my success. Over the following months, my career continued to grow. My savings increased, and my confidence became stronger than ever. Eventually, my parents reached out, but things were different. They no longer had money or guilt to control me because I had already built a life that belonged entirely to me. Looking back now, I realized the greatest victory was never exposing them in front of those guests. The real victory was proving to myself that I could succeed without their approval. Sometimes the people who underestimate you the most are the ones who think they know you best. They believed they controlled my future, but the truth was that I had already built one they could never take away. And that truth was worth more than anything they could ever give me.